Hey now, lovies. Welcome back to Talks with Her. I am Monique. How y'all doing? Are you having a good day? Are you being the most amazing, beautiful, extraordinary version of yourself? If you are, girl, pop your shit. If you're not, that's all right. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. The day might be daying, right? Or life might be lifing right now, but we're going to get there. So, let's get into it. So the last time we were together, we were talking about shame and trauma and how it gets trapped in the body. So, I'm very, very interested and curious to know how you guys are dealing with your trauma trapped in the body. Have you started to recognize it? Like, are you seeing it since our last time together? Are you able to see, like, wow, gosh, I do see, or I do feel that pain, in my arm or my back or my belly or my legs. I do notice that trauma trapped in my body starts at a certain point. So, yes, I want to know if you guys are starting to recognize it. So, if you are not following us on Instagram, then girl, what the hell? Like, what are you doing? Definitely go follow us at talkswithher.official. And I want you to drop into the comments, or you can DM me, um, however you want to communicate. You can also email directly at talkswithher at exalted, EXALTED, so like boy girl, .com. So that's talkswithher at exaltedbg.com. Send me an email. Let me know how you're feeling. How are you becoming more aware of your body's responses to your trauma? I'm really, really interested to hear from you guys. And I talk back, so I will definitely, get back with you and let you know, like, yeah, I feel that too. So very interesting, right? Really quick story time. So, as we were together the last time, we were talking about shame and where it gets its origin from. So, oddly enough, as we're talking about shame and how trauma gets trapped in the body, remember I was telling y'all that mine starts in my gut, right? It always starts in my belly. Like, as soon as I start to feel something that's not resonating organically with my spirit, my stomach is always the first indication. Like, something in my belly is just like, no, right? Like, no, hell no. So oddly enough, as we're talking about family, I was having a conversation. Actually, two things happened. One is I was having a conversation with my parents, because my dad came up with this, what he thinks is a great idea, to celebrate some of the things that I'm accomplishing. I thought that was pretty dope. And he and my mom began to talk about it. Mind you, they're not married anymore. So, they've gone on and got their own separate unions now. And they immediately began to argue. So, and I mean like argue, like knock down, drag out, cuss each other out type shit, like really just get into it. Right? And these are not like, young children, baby mama, baby daddy drama. These is my grown ass parents who are also grandparents. So I'm like, how are we still here? Right? So, my I was not privy to the conversation, so I could not tell. I can't even tell y'all, like, oh, well, this was said and this was said. I don't know. But my father called first, and he started off normal conversation. And then it just completely and very quickly, almost like a like an explosion, right? It was like you couldn't really see it coming. It was just like, hey, how's it going? Blah blah. Let me tell you what your mama did. Like, it was that shit, right? And I was like, what the hell is going on? So as I'm listening to him in this bizarre story that he's telling me about this interaction with my mother, who, by the way, yeah, he has been divorced from for I think my parents have been divorced for like 14 years, 15 years. Yeah. Yeah, about 14 to 15 years, right? And they're still like having these explosive, knockdown, drag out arguments, right? And so then as he's giving me his rendition of this, bloop bloop, that's the phone. That's the phone beeping with another call coming in, right? So the bloop bloop comes, and the bloop bloop is mom. Immediately, my stomach goes, oh, god damn it. Like, what? What is this shit finna be, right? So anyway, so you then yes, it was. She actually wasn't calling for that at that time. She like later on she got into it. So we just get into it, and it was just so frustrating to see them still kind of be going back and forth with each other about things, you know. So that was one instance. It was just really heavy, and I got to bear witness to my own trauma, you know, and where it started, like where how it was trapped in my belly and how it just started to just kind of rise and rise and rise. The more either one was telling their version of the story, the more I just became more annoyed, frustrated, uncomfortable, like, you know, just wrestling in my spirit, just all that. So that was my trauma, right? So that was the first instance. The second instance was, you know, I come from a super, maybe not super, but let's say religious, right? My grandpa was a pastor, so my dad's a preacher's kid, right? And so my grandfather has gone on to heaven, but my grandmother's still living, his wife, and so you know, she has her ideas about the world, and I guess for the holiday, the recent holiday, we did not do or perhaps acquiesce to what her idea of it should be. So my interaction with her, whereas normally she's, you know, very sweet little lady, my interaction with her was just very short, and it was extremely clear that she was in her feelings about something. Um, and I got to witness the trauma, like I got to witness the trauma body again, like, you know, rearing up as soon as I said, you know, hey, oh, I didn't recognize you were over there. Hey, grandma, what's up? You know, whatever. Normally it's hey, honey, or hey, whatever. At that point, this particular instance, it was like, it was not a, it was not a hey, it was not anything. Now, mind you, that could have been for a variety of reasons, but it was clear that it was something there. You get what I'm saying? Now, the thing of it is that it wasn't it wasn't aired out, it wasn't spoken upon, right? And so what I appreciate about my trauma body, and I hope that this is helpful to you right now, is that I'm a person that responds well to understanding. Not necessarily drama. I think how you deliver information is extremely important. It's actually way more important than what you are delivering. But no matter how you deliver it to me, if I understand that you have a problem, if I understand what's going on, okay, I could deal with that. I can't deal with the avoidant, you know, style of communication. I can't deal with that. So if you have a problem, like, you know, if I know that okay, you have a problem, then okay, no problem. I understand that, and I will, you know, behave accordingly. So, in keeping with that, what I'm learning is that my style of dealing with that perhaps can be equally damaging in that there's a certain portion of that needing to know, or at least wanting to know, wanting to understand, you know, well, what's your problem? Somebody's being passive aggressive with me. I want to understand what the problem is. That's great because you want to understand, but that's bad because part of that is rooted in people pleasing, right? So let's dig into this shame shit more, and then we'll talk about how this really ties into the people pleasing. Now, the origin of the shame as it pertains to what we're talking about really starts with family, right? Because take yourself back to your little self, your little girl self, okay? What did you know that you knew? Nothing, right? You were a child. So, you being a child, that means that you were entrusted to somebody, and that somebody was your family. So, again, I come from a religious family. Maybe you do too. And maybe that is where the shame started from you. Maybe it's the opposite. Maybe you came from a very non religious family, and the shame is from, things that transpired in your family for you as a little young person. But the reality is, it all goes back to something, right? Like, I didn't give myself this shame. Like, you didn't give yourself this shame. And I will definitely go on record and say, okay, well, school and having to interact with other human beings at my little age of, 5 years old or 4 years old, whenever we start, that definitely does not help. Because now you're getting a variety of, opinions and thoughts and principles and ideologies about the world, not only from other kiddos, but also from, your teachers, principal, other parents. Like, it's nuts, right? And so, gosh, that's why I think I must suggest probably, like, I must have lost my shit like every day for the probably like the first 3 or 4 years that my kid was in school, because it is just so difficult to protect your child's energy. But so, as a little person, as a little girl, I recognize now, as a grown woman, I recognize that as a little girl, my energy wasn't protected. And I bet there's somebody on the other side of my voice right now, one of y'all, or some of y'all, or all of y'all's energy wasn't protected either, right? So, let me dig into like what that looked like for me. For me, my energy not being protected looked like a variety of things. It looked like shaming me for not being the same size as other kids my size, right? I've always been um, thick, like fully stacked, like always, right? And personally, I ain't never seen nothing wrong with it. I ain't never had no problem being attractive to the opposite sex. I've never had any problem obtaining favor or attraction from the opposite sex, period, damn dot. Okay. But as a little girl, I was told that I was fat. And I was told that for whatever reason, that being fat was not acceptable, or that I needed to not be fat. I think I started my first diet when I was like 8 years old. I remember I cooked some fish and I put some tomato sauce on top of it. That shit was disgusting. But I remember that being my first like diet meal, and I was like, I'm gonna go on a diet. Now, I'm purposely leaving out the part of where that, where the origin of that shame came from, because I honestly I can't tell y'all. I cannot tell y'all whether or not it was one of my grandmothers, or my mother, or my father. I can't tell you exactly what adult shamed me for being bigger than other little girls my age, but I can tell you um, what I do remember, which was that first diet and that nasty ass fish with the tomato sauce on it. I remember that for sure. Um, Maybe it was my mom. Maybe, I don't know. Remember, I was telling y'all that my mother and both of my grandmothers, they're very petite women, right? None of them clear 5 feet even. They're all like 4'8", like 4'10", whatever, and they're all like little, like 120 pounds, 130 pounds, like whatever, right? Me, I'm 5'6", and I've always hovered somewhere between, like 180, 200. I think my heaviest was like I don't know, it was like 235, whatever. But that was when I was pregnant with my kiddo. So I've always hovered around there. Nonetheless, I have always had, like, you know, thick boobs, um, thick legs. Like it's just always been, right? It's just always been. Like I'm not pear shaped. I'm like equal proportion, bigger top, bigger bottom, little in the middle. Like that's just kind of my shape. And I remember being in first grade and my boobs were like way bigger than all the rest of the girls. So the rest of the girls got little training bras on and stuff, and I had on a full ass bra. And we were all in the bathroom, and we're all in the bathroom. Shout out to Kennedy Elementary because all of those, most of those same girls are still my friends to this very day. So anyway, shout out to Kennedy. But we were all in the bathroom at Kennedy, and we were all just kind of comparing our, our little boobs, our little chi-chis to each other, right? And it kind of got around to me. I'm not really sure, how that works, but like kind of came my time. And I just, innocently was like, so everybody else is like, oh, I got on a training bra. Look, mine has flowers or whatever. And I was like, well, I'm in a B cup. Shit. Hella proud too, right? Like I didn't know that there was a problem with that, And it wasn't until the other girls started like making fun, like, dang, there's bigger teachers or whatever, right? And then I was like, well, damn. Oh, I guess okay, all right. Well, I guess there is something wrong with me. Um, and I remember going home and telling my mom that, and she was just like, "Well, baby, you're just bigger than other girls, And she just left it at that, and she just kept saying, "Well, yes, you're fat now, but you're gonna grow into that." And I was like, "What the fuck? Like, that's not helpful." You know what I'm saying? But coming from a petite woman, of course, like she's gonna say that, right? So unbeknownst to her and me, um, she was setting a precedent for how I viewed myself in the world. And how I view myself in the world is definitely going to impact how I make decisions, who I allow into my life, what I allow into my life, right? So naturally, that impacted me. It impacted how I saw myself. People pleasing starts, in my experience, it starts when a child is simply being a child, and for whatever intent or purpose, the adult or the person around is telling them, either directly or indirectly, that there's something wrong with their natural childlike state. I remember being a little girl and we were watching a movie. Remember, I come from teenage parents, right? So our household was always just fucking dysfunctional, crazy shit going on, people hanging out. We moved every couple months. I think we probably changed schools and moved um, on average every 3 months, right? And so I remember we were watching a movie once, and um, something in the movie scared me, like really, really scared, like legit, right? Like legit. Remember how those old movies used to be like hella like gory, And now when you watch them, you're like, oh my god, that's so fake. But like think like Freddy Krueger, right? Like hella gory. You're just at 5, you're like, WTF? Because that's scary, right? It's a scary thing. But I remember watching some horror movie and I was scared, and I went to my parents and I was like, I'm scared. And my dad was just like, so what? Get over it. He was just so mean. always so mean to me. Always like super mean. And then I found out later that that was because um, he just didn't like himself very much. And I always had this sneaking suspicion that he really wanted a boy. Now I have a brother, right? But I think because I was the oldest, maybe he wanted a boy first. So maybe he was just kind of disappointed. But indirectly, in that disappointment, he definitely handed that to me. And I think in hindsight, now that we're all grown and he's old, I don't think that he meant to do that. As a matter of fact, I know that he didn't mean to do that. But as a parent, subconsciously, his disappointments came down on me as a child. And um, pretty much for the first, gosh, I can't even count, for the first at least 10 years of my life, it seemed like I did nothing but disappoint him. And so that is definitely where the people pleasing started. Definitely where it started for me. And then on the other side of that was my mother, who was um, she was very keen and very aware of that sensitivity as far as like, not being treated the same by him or not really being accepted by him and such. And she's combative. So her answer to that was to fight, and fight him, not me, but to fight him, to protect me. And that's how I felt loved by my mother. Um, and she's still that way. She's still very combative, and she will cut your head off your body by her babies. Do not fucking play, okay? But she also, you know, had those same sensitivities as it pertained to her mother, and feeling like, gosh, I'm just not measuring up. So there was just this, it just kept going and going and going and going and going. But I remember that my earliest memories were that I just wasn't doing anything. I was just breathing, but I just wasn't good enough. Just wasn't good enough. And that's where it started for me. That's where the people pleasing and the shame, that's where that started. And I have to be honest about that. That now that I'm an adult, my dad and I have had, gosh, a billion probably now by now conversations about it. But it was definitely a sticking point. So again, I know that somebody on the other side of this, you feel that too. And you can identify, like, okay, where did this come from? Where did this shame come from? Which one of my parents, right? So for me, it was definitely dad, and for you, it might have been mom, because that's something that we don't often talk about. We don't talk about the mom shame as much. We typically, dads do get a bad rap, so probably I'm pretty typical. Sorry that it's not more interesting, right? But um, we never really talked very heavily about, and I mean we, like, as far as a society, I am a black woman, so definitely culturally, we don't talk about how much our mothers impact us negatively, and the power behind that impact, and how it changes the trajectory of our lives. um, I'll get into my story with my mom later, but as a little girl, like for the purpose of this particular, like this discussion, what we're talking about, my shame didn't really start from my mom. It definitely started from my dad. So as we grew and had more in depth conversations as adults, I learned something really important. My shame, the origin of my shame, though it started with my father, that's actually not where it actually started. It's just where it started for me. I didn't realize at the time that he also had his own shame, and that his shame started from his parents. Remember the super religious ones? Yeah, it started from them. So I didn't understand that until I became older, and life starts kind of handing you all of these full circle moments at a really warp speed. And so you start to see all these people that you were so obsessed with pleasing, i.e., your family. You start seeing them as ordinary people just like you. And then it starts to become clear that while all of the people that you were people pleasing, your family, right? While you were attempting to please them, um, they have their struggles too. and so and so you are running yourself into the ground trying to please these people who are just as effed up as you are. And in most instances, actually way more effed up than you are, because they don't even have the capacity to stop and think through this. They didn't have the resources that we have now. Like, they didn't have podcasts, back in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. They didn't have podcasts then, right? So they're just kind of stuck in their shame, and they handed you shame. Y'all peep that? Like, do you peep the power of that? See how shame just keeps going and going and going and going and going? So, oddly enough, I'm a black woman. So, as a black woman, it became apparent to me just a few short years ago that a huge portion of where our shame in our community is derived from is not even internally, like, mom and dad, or even go up grandma and grandpa. It's like, it's cultural, and it's religious, because a huge part of our culture is based in religion, and a huge part of our religion is based in fear. Right? If you grew up how I grew up, then you were taught that you were born sinful and unclean, and that Jesus came to the world to die for your sins, and that you now have a right to the tree of life because you were innately born sinful and unclean. So it wasn't until life really started lifing and I really started to have those real talks with God that I was like, hold up, Lord, wait a minute. If I'm already born sinful and unclean, then that means I'm bad. No shit, I'm going to have shame. And yes, I really do be talking to God like that, okay? Y'all mind y'all business, right? Get your relationship with him, okay? But I have to talk to him real because I'm real and he's real in my life. So I have to talk to him real. So I really high key had to say, well, wait a minute, God. If the basis of my relationship with you is that I'm bad and that I should be full of shame just about simply existing. I ain't did nothing yet. I'm just sitting in the room, butt naked, ain't got nothing, ain't no thoughts on my mind, nothing. And that I'm bad? Wait a minute. Who's selling me this? Who is selling me this? Right? And so from there, which originated in, like I said, in religion, in our church setting, right? It originated there for us. And because it originated there, then that means that, two things were handed to our elders: shame and judgment, which of course it's gonna equal shame too, but judgment, right? They had a set standard of principles. You have to do it this way. You have to do it that way. You have to do these things this way. And when you don't do the things the way that they say you're supposed to do it, down from generation to generation to generation, then there is something wrong with you. And that's what we've been handed. So as a little girl, much like you, I was handed that something was wrong with me, and I was just lit, like I was just existing. I wasn't even doing that. I could just be sitting, and There's something wrong with you. There's something wrong with the way that you're sitting. There's something, something bad about you, and that you should not trust your own decision making abilities. So if you are teaching a child to not trust their own decision making abilities, then what the hell do you think they're going to grow up and do as an adult, other than people please, be filled, shame filled in life, and ultimately be miserable, right? So it wasn't until I started replacing, well, no, I'm sorry, I have to digress. I didn't start replacing the shame. I had to start identifying that the entire rhetoric that I had around myself was bullshit. So I'm going to call it out for you. The entire rhetoric that you have around yourself, everything that's telling you that you are bad, that you're wrong, that you shouldn't do things this way, that your organic sense of being, just the decision that you want to make, or the one that you're struggling with right now as you're listening to this, right? That is bad, or that you're bad, or that you should not do this, or whatever is the basis and origin of your fear, that you're not good enough, you're not fill in the blank enough, tall, pretty, smart, successful, not successful, like whatever, fill in the blank, right? Whatever's telling you that you're not enough, that's the thing that's gotta die. Because the truth of the matter is, you are enough. You're more than enough. The harsh truth of the matter is that if you came from a family like mine that was completely, loving and well intentioned, but limited in their scope of being able to see through these kinds of things, then you looking to them for an answer to your deepest pains is going to cause you a lifetime of despair. And it's not until you turn despair to dissipate that you're really going to start breaking through. So, what's the thing that's got to dissipate, right? Dissipate means fear, right? So, what's the thing that's got to dissipate? Or, excuse me, dissipate means to disappear. But what is the thing that has to dissipate? What's the thing that has to disappear? The fear and the shame. And it's got to be replaced with something. For me, the something was faith. Remember, I'm a woman that, because of the shame that was placed inside of me as a baby girl, I suffered sexual assault as a teenager. As a matter of fact, as that's how I became sexually active. I was raped the first time. So that's how I lost my virginity, by somebody that I trusted. He was actually a boyfriend. So it was somebody that I had been around. It wasn't like, a random thing. And it was definitely calculated. So I'm a woman that has been sexually assaulted uh, as a result of shame. I'm a woman that has been um, traumatized by workplace aggressions, and treated in a way that led to lawsuit and public aggressiveness. Like I have gone through, right, because as you're climbing the corporate ladder, shame climbs with you. It goes with you, goes with you everywhere you go. I'm a woman that has been domestically abused in my marriage, and I hate the people that say, oh, well, there's no such thing as abuse. First of all, you haven't been abused if you think that there's no such thing as abuse, or why would you stay? That's a decision. That's a decision. Remember when I said shame goes with you? Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, damn, I feel like I want to be abused today. But the reason why myself and any other woman that's been in my position, the reason why we stay in abusive situations is because of shame. If you have children, you stay because somebody made you feel that it was shameful to be an unwed mother or to have children that don't have their father, baby out of wedlock, whatever. Somebody made you feel ashamed about that. So then you stay and you get humiliated and maimed, annihilated, because you stay. Smart girls, beautiful girls, and women, understand, respect, right? Smart, beautiful women are secretly being annihilated because of shame. They know better. They know they deserve better. They know this man ain't shit. They know he's terrible. He's scum of the fucking earth. But the reality is they stay. I stayed because of shame. Because of shame. Not because of fear. It's because of shame. So, the truth of the matter is that shame, whew, it's a beast. Until you start learning how to use it for your benefit. Now, I know what you're thinking. Ain't nowhere in hell I can use shame for my benefit. Oh, but honey, boo. Ha, listen here. Yes, there is. There is a way that you can use shame for your benefit. So, we are going to talk about that next time because there is something on the other side of debilitating shame. There is something on the other side of allowing shame to place you and keep you in harmful positions. Not just abuse, harm in your workplace, harm in your friendships, and harm in your family. There is something on the other side of that type of shame. So we're going to get there. That's what we're going to talk about the next time, okay? Until then, I want you to go be amazing and know that I love you, but not more than you should love yourselves. Go be smart, powerful, and strong, and we will talk soon. Bye, lovies.